Hello, welcome back. Big surprise. I'm here for another Q&A on a Tuesday evening. David is in the eagerly waiting on the sidelines for me to bring him in. I'm not going to be around the bush. We're just going to jump right into it. You know the drill. You got questions, we got answers. So break out the notepads with all those burning questions that are in your brain, and we'll see what we can do about that. David, come on in here, bud. Hello. That's my expedited intro. I'm trying out a different, it's, how do you like it? Do you think it's good?
I like the new short and sweet version of, hey, let's get this started. Come on in.
Let's just jump into it, baby. Okay, so I have something to admit. I'm just trying to dig up the
question list.
Yes, I'm trying to find it, and for some reason I can't. It's
It's a good thing that I have it. Although, if we want you to put those questions at the bottom of the screen, I should. Let me do this here and send you this little link that should have appeared.
I could probably find it. Oh yeah, is it in the? Okay,
it's in Slack now.
Perfect. Thank you.
There you go. So actually, last week we didn't even have time to go in any of the
we did not
the backlog of questions that we had. So let's see how it goes today.
Let's roll the dice, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Let's give maybe a 10-second to see if chat has anything specific to ask. If not, we'll go with one that we had from the backlog, and maybe it'll inspire a few more questions from chat afterwards.
Chat, you've been challenged. Bring the questions.
Exactly. All right. Actually, let's start with the first one. Do you have the list with you?
I got it now. Yeah. Thanks for the link.
All right. So I'll start with the first one we have above, which is, this is coming from chat from a previous stream, but I don't know who exactly. So it's an anonymous question. So, and it's pretty simple. How to become a lead?
If only it was so easy.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. Well, fortunate enough, we both had the opportunity to be promoted to lead position ourselves. We had opportunity to promote lead ourselves and see a lot of our peers becoming lead over time. We could bring this one in many different directions, but I would say I can probably, for the first part of my answer, just rely on my own experience. I don't remember. There's actually one time in my career that I remember that I felt I wanted to be a lead on a production, and I asked for it, and it happened. But all the other times, I think I got maybe 5 moments that I got promoted to a lead position, and all the other times I did not really look for it at all. I just naturally acted as a lead, and it's been recognized. And how do you act as a lead? Well, first of all, you are reliable, you're autonomous, you help people around you, you build little tools that are going to make everyone more efficient. You are ahead of time with your delivery, you help production, you're basically doing everything a lead would be expected to do, and you don't ask for anything. And at some point it's being recognized, and then if there's an opportunity on a production to be promoted as a lead, or if there's someone leaving, if there's a new position, or maybe it's the next production, at least in my experience, most of the time, even with those I saw around me, you just act as someone is in a leadership position, and eventually, ideally, you don't want to ask for it. It's coming because of your action. Yeah. What do you think?
I take this sort of a swell. Well, hey, let me try that all over again.
Next question.
Yeah, moving on. You broke my brain with that question. I can no longer operate. I shall just go to bed. What I was going to say is I would answer this question by asking a question, and that is why? Because one thing I'll be completely frank with you. Often when I hear people ask that question, it sends up a big red flag for me because here's the thing. This industry has a problem, like so many other industries, where the wrong people are promoted into these leadership roles. Unfortunately, because a lot of people are like they have maybe the wrong. They want that role for the wrong reasons. They either just want the extra money, or they want to have power over their peers. There's a lot of not so great reasons to be interested in a job like this. I always think about I don't know if everyone's seen the movie Gladiator. Like there's a really amazing moment in that movie that I will never forget, and it's the moment between Maximus and the Emperor before he gets killed by his son. Spoiler alert! If you haven't seen the movie by now, then shame on you. But the point is this in this beautiful Ridley Scott film, there's this amazing moment where Maximus, who's like essentially the commander of the guard, the Roman guard. Who has developed a close friendly relationship, almost a father-like friendly relationship with the emperor. They're having this very intimate chat. Moments like he's getting old, and he needs to pick a successor, and he essentially approaches Maximus with that request. He thinks he should do it, and anyways, long story short, Maximus didn't want to do it. He was totally against it. He's like, no, I've been serving this army for years. The whole plan was to retire and go and spend the rest of my time, my years in peace with my family. And the emperor looks at him and is dead in his eyes and says, don't you understand? This is exactly why you need to be the emperor, because his son, he knew, was already corrupt with power. He wanted to usurp his father because he wanted that. And I always think about this when it comes to proper allocation of leadership roles on a team. It needs to go to people that are not asking for it per se, because you always have to question the person's reasons for asking for it. You need to first prove that you have leadership qualities about you. Like David said, he listed them all. You're more concerned about your team than you are yourself when it comes to delivering the goods. You know what I mean? Like or at least you're very good at balancing those two things. You're autonomous, but you're also extremely team oriented. You want to make sure you unblock your team and make sure that you're like a coach for a team. When the team has a victory, it's your victory, and it's all about just support. Like leads often they live these dual lives on a production, where they often during the day they're running around helping people, and then they spend another few hours a little bit late, I find, just to get caught up on their own work, because leads often have shots to do as well. And so it can be a little bit of it's not an easy road. Lead is a very tricky position, because you're kind of between directorship and just being an animator, and you have to somehow be both of those things a little bit, half and half, and it could be a very challenging experience. So you need to be ready for it. So don't be hungry for it. Maybe if you're interested in that, if that sounds interesting to you, that you want to help your team around you, then start maybe, just acting like one, and then hopefully you'll get recognized and someone's going to tap you one day.
Yeah, I think I've definitely seen some people that had, or at least in my opinion, had a wrong view of what it was to be in a leadership position. The classic perspective that people have is that, I'm going to be respected, I'm going to have power, I'm going to be able to make those decisions. And wherever those motivation can come from, they can come for a good place. But the reality is that in my opinion, if you are a good leader, praise is given to everyone else on your team. And when there's responsibility, or everything is on fire, or there's a big problem, it's your responsibility.
Absolutely. That's a big one. That's a huge one. It's always your fault.
Exactly. So it's praise goes to everyone else, and you take on your own shoulder.
Totally agree.
And that's something that new leaders, are not might not be always prepared for this reality.
The true selflessness, right? Like, it's like you're not looking for the limelight anymore. You're actually you're fighting to get limelight for your team. You want them to be successful. You want them to be praised, and you need to be comfortable that their praise is essentially your praise as well. You need to be comfortable. Like, it's again, I use the coach analogy all the time. Like, when your skaters are on the ice and they're putting the puck in the net, you need to climatize to the idea that it feels as much your goal when that puck goes in there, because it is. You pulled the strings, you organized, you ran the practices, you did the drills, you practiced the plays, and that was all coming from your leadership. And so you don't need to be one on the ice to score the goal. And a lot of people really have a hard time not being that person. So they take the opportunity to take all the best shots for themselves, and they just do all these stupid things because they have the ability to do it now. And it's just not what it's about.
Yeah, so it's if something that they're going to shine, it's actually the production, the product, whatever you're making is the most important thing. Then right after, or maybe equally, is people around you, your own team, and you come like third in the list. So that's definitely something to take under consideration. So if you do it for the right reasons, and you touched something very important, is that many times, unfortunately, in our industry, people want to level up, people want to be promoted for a good reason, but often it's financial incentives. And the structure is made that you want to level up, it means that you will have to manage other people, no matter if you are skilled at it, if you want to do it, if you're good at it. So, and this is why in many studios they have this new kind of principal position, which means that, okay, you are above a senior in the sense that you are recognized for your expertise, for your excellence at whatever that is. You are recognized as a go-to person, or someone that will have a lot of influence on the production for whatever expertise that you have, but you are not in charge of managing people. You're not in charge of looking at timesheets. You're not in charge of yearly, evaluation and all this other stuff that is coming with management, but it's coming with a financial incentive. So that I think the industry is slowly maturing into finding that, okay, we need to adjust a little bit our incentives, because if it all relies on the fact that, okay, now you manage other people, well, there's a lot of insanely good artists that have no desire to manage other people, but they will do it because the financial incentives is interesting.
Exactly. And it's sad. I've seen it ruin people's careers, to be honest, because it's like, I've seen lots of bad leads in my time, and it's sad that they had that experience and their team had that experience just because they wanted more money. They've been at the company for 5 years, and the only way to actually get promoted, because they have an archaic system in HR, and the only way to really kind of offer them more to sort of retain them as an employee is to promote them into a leadership position that not even something that they wanted, but they figured, well, I'll give it a shot if that's what it means. That's what I need to do. So this idea of these horizontal promotions or these branching promotions that take a different track, like David's suggesting, is becoming a very popular thing, thankfully. But it's kind of the thing you might want to even ask during your interview is what are the career paths? What does it look like? Because if you're already in the headspace that you're not really interested in leadership and you're just more interested in just making amazing animation and working with a team alongside a team, but don't want the extra burden of having to manage, then you're going to want to know, trust me, that there is a future for you at that company that allows you to go up the ladder without tripping on things that you don't want to be dealing with.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I've also seen many new leads that have no support from the studio or the production or other leads or whatnot. They just assume that, you have the title in the race, so automatically you become good at it. For
sure. They've been gifted. They've been overnight that the lead fairies show up in your bedroom and they've cast a magic spell and you wake up the next day supercharged with leadership qualities and everything. That's totally how it goes, right? No,
yeah, wait, exactly. Yeah, for all of the rest of humanity that lives in reality, that's usually not how it goes. So I would say to any new lead, at least look around for some support, because one day you might have to deal with someone that comes and is in a very tough personal situation that will start to cry, and you need to manage how you handle the pressure that is on their shoulders. That might be too much. And how do you mitigate between this? You have to manage a human being in crisis and the deadline that is arriving that you absolutely need to meet. What do you do then? So if there is no preparation at all, it's going to be tough. That's for sure.
Been there, done that. That's part of the job. You're dealing with the very human element of that job, because you're the point person on your team, that your people are reporting to you, so therefore they are going to come to you with those problems, and you need to decide whether you escalate it or not. I think that if you do get tapped for leadership and you are interested in it, first of all, if you're not, then you should say so. Don't just take the job if you know that you don't want to be or have no interest in it, because you may not like it, and it's weird once you get that promotion. How do you backpedal out of it? It can be a little awkward. So some people leave the company. It can be a bit of an issue, and possibly, depending on how long you wait until you do that, you might end up burning a couple bridges along the way. And if you do get tapped for leadership and you are interested in it, don't be afraid to ask for support. They don't assume they're going to give it to you, but be like, hey, I'm excited about this opportunity. I'll be honest, it intimidates me. And that's a good sign. If you tell that to an employer, like a smart one, they're going to be like, okay, I'm listening. And then just follow it up with, like, is there anything that you could maybe offer me as far as support? Like, can I be mentored by another lead? Can I, I don't want to go into this on my own, because trust me, you don't want to be on your own. It's not going to be fun. And the company owes you that much to be able to help you out. There's no point. They succeed if you succeed.
Agreed.
We got a bunch of questions in chat. Look at this. Holy crap.
Yeah, there's one I absolutely want to send your way, Brent.
Okay, good. Which one?
There's one from Van Animator.
Okay.
So, purely out of interest, what's your opinion about office romances between senior, junior, or prod artists? Ever seen any train wrecks? Why is it me? Why do I have to be guy? I don't remember witnessing anything tragic like this. No, I've never witnessed any train wrecks to that regard, or not that I remember of. No. Office romances. So where did you met your wife, Brent? Oh, that's why. Okay. Well, but so we were not on the same team though. So okay. Yeah. Well, so Ubisoft is a gigantic place. It might as well be a country. So, we met on press tours, but yes, he's alluding to the fact that we met while we both worked at Ubisoft, which is true. But but it wasn't like an awkward thing where she was like my animator and I was her supervisor, or vice versa. So these kind of things can be tricky. So Pure Lighters, what is your opinion about it? I think my opinion is mixed. I am not the type of person who wants to get in the way of love or anything, right? If people like each other, they like each other. The problem is that productions can be pressure cookers. And if you are in a relationship and it's a failing relationship and there's already some tension there,
it can get ugly. And I've seen it get kind of ugly from a distance. Luckily, it's never happened on my team before. But don't underestimate the power that is two people that are falling out of love, and how difficult that can be on the people around them if they can't keep it professional. So for me, like I'm usually like kind of guy who says, look, I like, don't ask, don't tell. I don't want to see it at work. Essentially, is what I usually suggest, is like be in love outside of work. You're working right now. There's too many problems that come from you letting that sort of seep into the world here. There's people need to like, and this is good advice for anybody, regardless of whether you're in a relationship with somebody at work or not. The idea that you need to get good at separating sort of your business world, like your professional life, and your personal life. You need to find a way. So a good example of that is also just not being on your friggin' Facebook all day at work. Same thing, right? It's why are you doing that? You're at work right now. You shouldn't be spending the whole day like tweeting and doing all these things. The occasional tweet here and there, an occasional check-in, before and after lunch, not a big deal. But like some people I see literally having it up on their screen, which is, to me, like, it blows my mind that they would ever do this. If you're one of those people, stop doing it, because honestly, I guarantee you it's driving people crazy. They just might not have told you yet. So I think that it's, this idea is just, it's all encompassing. Keep it professional, people. Try to find a way. And if you could be in a relationship and it's like, it's so discreet that nobody even knows you're in a relationship, well, then you win, because that's the way it should be at work, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I've never witnessed I've witnessed, obviously couples that were working together, couples that were made during production, or people that, just left each other. There was never really any drama. But for me, I would, to your point, I've seen like people that were friends at the beginning of a production that ended up, for whatever reason, whatever happened, they definitely were not friends anymore at the end of the production.
Exactly.
The other way around.
Totally.
Just keep it professional. This personal stuff, whether you like or love someone, or whether you dislike, or you're heartbroken, or all that, try to leave it as much as you can at the door when you're going to work, because it can very easily become a distraction, and
very easily.
You don't want gossiping to start on the production
don't.
floor, because that's just toxic, and it starts, and then you have those people that are on his side and those other on her side, and just keep it professional.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I don't think it's not my place to say whether you should or should not. And I think the workplaces that have rules, like policies against it, I think are a little draconian, because I think what they're doing is that because they believe maybe they've been soured because of some bad experiences in the past. Maybe, but maybe they don't trust that just by saying keep it professional, because some people don't know how to. That's the problem that's the problem with love, right? Is that people start losing themselves, and it's like they're drunk. They lose their inhibitions. They lack better judgment, and an otherwise relatively very professional person could suddenly succumb to just being like, because heartbroken people they're not operating at all cylinders, emotionally or mentally. It's just usually the case, generally speaking. So that's why you need to know yourself. And if you feel like you can't, then you should probably not, even as much as you want to, you should probably not date. I've even had people quit their company because they really wanted to start a relationship. So they actually looked for a different place to work so they could actually pursue a relationship, because they felt it was inappropriate, or they felt it could lead to a bad place. And so that's, to me, is being super proactive and being very responsible and dealing with the consequences. You just can't have your cake and eat it too. Because the last thing you want, as David's saying, you don't want that to spill out into your professional life. And then suddenly, just because something went terribly wrong with a relationship, you're now being judged professionally for it. That you don't want. I mean, here's a quick anecdote for you. This is what I'll tell you. I didn't witness this firsthand, but at a company that will remain nameless, this goes to show you how perception and optics are a really powerful thing. And the fact I'm telling you all this story is exactly the point. So it happened at a big company. There was a big hostile takeover on a project. A person became producer on a project. They then pushed people off of that project out of their creative leadership positions. And then once almost pretty much a clean sweep was made, it was very passive aggressive. It was very weird. I was there for the beginning, but then I was like, I'm out. because a couple people I really respected just got ousted, and I'm like, why? About 2 to 3 weeks, no, maybe closer to a month after I left, I got word that the same producer then instated their boyfriend as the creative director on that project. Now, think of how that makes those two people look. Both people look like total nepotistic, like idiots that no one wants to work with. And all for what? For what reason? Even if this person was God's gift to whatever role they were playing, it won't matter, because anybody who takes that position in those kind of circumstances, they're not going to have the respect of the team, because they're going to be like, well, the producer just fired this person and then hired their boyfriend. Like, what the hell? Like, so there's a good example of situations that aren't even about breakups. It's about just optics and perceptions that can really haunt you for the like rest of your professional career. So be smart, people. Keep it professional, like we said.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure as a studio, it's, again, to your point, it's their place to put some rigid rules about it, but I would trust the people to be responsible and professional about it. And if there's something that is totally out of line that makes everyone else uncomfortable or is creating a toxic environment, that's a case-by-case thing, because it can be about a relationship, but it can be about so many other things, and there is no special rule because it's a relationship.
Well, in life is hard, right? You know, we should all be wearing helmets, because there's a lot of things that can happen in your life that doesn't involve dating a coworker that maybe possibly goes wrong. Although the law of averages states that most relationships don't end up as long-term relationships. So you have to consider this too. There's a good chance the odds are stacked against you that this is probably not your soulmate. You know, I hate to break it to you, because the law of averages sort of it seems to think otherwise, just based on how many relationships there are in total and how many of them turn into like substantial ones that continue. So, you know, just keep this in mind. But like, you know, you don't need the extra pressure. Like, there are other things, people getting sick, people having deaths in the family. Like, there are a lot of, and going back to the lead question, this is the kind of thing that you have to deal with. So the least you need is to also deal with the drama right there in front of you, like where two of your employees are now dysfunctional because they didn't keep it professional, you know?
Yep.
So what's the next one?
All right, let's go back to the backlog, just to go one
sure.
with chat and one in the backlog. So
we don't pull the last, so we just don't do the repeat of last time. We're not answer any questions in the backlog. It's probably a good idea.
Let's try to get at least 2 of the backlog.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, the next one on leadership as well, from Christabella_99. Would you mind to share your experiences with how you lead your team? Okay, so this is related to the leadership again, but more personal experience of how we've done it. I would say, so if I try to think the first time I had the opportunity to lead a team, I was very cautious about it, because there are some people on the team that were definitely my senior that had more experience than I had. So I was basically looking at, you know, guys, tell me what you need to be efficient and to be productive. I'm here. I'm the official person that's been put in charge by production, which means that I have a direct channel of communication with them. They will listen what I'm requesting. If we have concern, if it's this and that. So I'll be the voice of the team. So if I'm not going to tell you what to do, because you're here for a reason. If I can help with advice or insights or whatnot, I will. But mainly, I'm here to make sure that I create an environment or a field that you will be able to kind of a little protective bubble that will allow you to do the best of the work that you can do. So that's kind of how I approached leadership in the first place, from a place of what I felt I needed to do, and also just being slightly uncomfortable to tell those other artists that I felt were at least as good as I was, if not better, how to do their job. Yeah. So I would say that would be my first main insight of how I handled that part of the job. Yeah,
I think my experience was similar. I think that but it's evolved over the years, which makes sense because I mean, I was a lead, but now being a director, you're even more higher level. So it would need to evolve. But one thing for sure, I think I probably did at the beginning that, that's, I think a very natural instinct is to be a little bit doting on the people that you're working with. What I mean by that is that like, trying to maybe overcoach a little bit and, as opposed to really trying to build a space that allows them to take real true ownership of their own shots and find a mechanism and a sort of a dialogue with your team that is really speaking at a very high level. There's an art form in this. I think I got better at it when I started directing actors on a performance floor. I think that's when I started really learning the art of leading someone in a direction as opposed to pulling or pushing them in a direction, because you can't, as soon as you start to really tell them exactly what to do and you get too low level, they turn off. I've actually watched performers on a floor when I'm not the one directing. It's very easy to tell. And you watch a director that doesn't know how to do this, it's very frustrating because you're just like this poor, like you literally see a switch in the actor. They just go, blip, okay, I'm just going to do exactly what you told me to do now. They're no longer really bringing their A game because it's obvious that you don't want their A game. You want, they get that you clearly want them to do exactly what you're saying. And that's not really what they are. I mean, if they're a performer, a really good one, it needs to be inspired, you know what I mean, in a direction. And then they embrace this and they understand it. And they take ownership of the character and then they just make it happen. They make magic happen, but you got to give them room. And it's the same thing for animators, 100%. It's like they are performers 100%. And so they need to be given with the same kind of inspiration, get them excited about the point of the shot. If you're working on a film, and try to go over the storyboard with them and discuss it in a very high level and give them room to be like, hey, wouldn't it be cool? And like this is, and yeah, if it fits into that sandbox that you just talked about, then yeah, go for it, man. Absolutely do that. Some leads, going back to the leadership that goes wrong, it's like if it's not your idea, then then it's not a good idea. And this is, we see a lot of people in leadership roles that are like this, and it's very damaging to the morale of the team. And you're not going to get as much out of your team because they're going to do the same thing that the performers do. They're like, okay, I'll just wait for you to tell me, send a command in my brain and I'll execute on that command, as opposed to being autonomous and being passionately owning this piece of the work. You don't want to rob them of that, because robbing them of that is robbing yourself of true magic in a bottle, and that's no good.
Yeah. I would say my second experience, one of the things that I remember is that I actually went abroad. It was in the Marseille, the south of France, and got promoted to a lead over there. And I would say I had a very interesting team of completely different characters. And that's when I learned that you need to adapt a little bit to everyone that is on your team. There are some people that need to be pushed, and there's others that you need to pull on the strides a little bit. There are some that can handle the pressure like there's no tomorrow, and there's others that are very sensitive and you have to be careful of. So to me, that's kind of a second level. Once you have the proper, guideline of main quality of how to lead people in general, then you start to be good at sizing every personality and how to pull their strings, because you can literally shut down people, or you can lose all of productivity, or the same thing on the other side if you're able to properly deal with them. I had some, and so at first I kind of acted a little bit the same with everyone, and it was working for some, it was not working for others, and there's some that I realized that okay, they do not have my level of energy. At 10 a.m. they don't have, they're not running at 200 miles per hour and ready to absorb 5 minutes of information nonstop. And I think that, well, I'm going to give all this information and they're set for the day. And for some people, I just confused the shit out of them because they were not in their prime time to just process all this information.
Information,
exactly. They started to bleed by the ears a little bit. And sometimes, you assume that if someone, says that it's okay, understand, you have to look at some cue of if they are they really are they really agreeing with what you said, or do they just say yes because you're the figure of authority, and it will be easier for them if they just pretend that they are agreeing. So if you're able to say, oh, I'm not sure that you agree with me on this one, what's on your mind, just open up the dialogue, and by opening up the dialogue you will get a lot of information that will allow you to kind of adjust course of how you are dealing with those different individuals.
I have a couple of the quick points to kind of go off of what you just said. I think that that's really genius advice. First of all, I think that idea, I don't think I've ever really acknowledged that that's something that I try to do, but it's true. This idea of like, you can't just have a template for dealing with your animators and apply that template an approach to everybody, because everyone is built completely differently, 100%. Some people are a bit more in the emotional spectrum, where other people are a bit more in the sort of the cerebral or analytical spectrum, and those different types. And there's a lot in between. You need to use different tactics, because the idea is it's not just about motivating them. It's also about making sure that the messaging is clear, right? The other thing I would say is that, it's important to, as democratic as you want to be as a leader, you still need to set your limits. And I think this can be done organically. Ideally, what I always try to do is I try to create an air of, look, I'm not always right. I'm definitely not always right. So you do not need to be scared to come at me with, hey, Brent, I think you're making a mistake. And just tell me. If you have a logical reason why you think I'm making a mistake, I will give you the benefit, absolutely, and I will take the minute to really consider it. And if I don't have a logical rebuttal to that, then there's a very good chance where I'm going to adopt what you just said, and I will go out of my way to prove that a few times to make sure that people can trust in that. But at the same time, when people abuse that and they just throw temper tantrums to try to get their way, well, like that's not going to work out very, very well. I mean, a lot of leadership is a little bit of parenting. There's a little bit of that going on, and it's unavoidable. In other words, like even with my daughter, I mean, like I try to always remember she's 5, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have feelings and she doesn't, like, she's developing an intellect, and she catches me all the time with like a completely illogical thing. And I always promised myself when I was younger that I would not do that to my children, that like the whole, why can't I do that, Dad? Well, because I'm your dad and I
said so.
It's like, nope. Because that used to literally drive me bananas. And so if I catch myself doing that, and she's smart, because she knows that's my Achilles heel. So she'll make sure that I'm aware that I'm doing that. And then I'll be like, oh my God, you're totally right. You're ninjaing my brain. Okay, well, so you're right. You know what? You can do that, but these are the limits. I don't want you to do this, or like, I just, we're operating in these limits here, but otherwise, yeah, go for it. I think the reason why Dad said don't is because it makes me scared. I think you're going to fall and hurt yourself, but hey, I'm not your boss. Like, you can try to do it. It's the same thing for leadership. You got to give people room, but you also have to set these limits somehow. It's a delicate balance, but you'll find one. You'll find your own way as long as you look for that balance.
Yeah. Lastly, I would maybe say to be careful not to get your ego in the way. Too many people in leadership position kind of falsely assume that they need to be right about everything, and if not, they will be regarded as being incompetent. It's not true at all. Just be extra humble, and when you don't know or you're not sure, or just let them know, I don't know, let's discuss about this. Let's figure out what's the best option. Let's brainstorm a little bit. Let's put all the bad ideas on the table, and at some point one idea will be a little bit less bad than the other, and that's something that we can work on to go towards a better idea. So I would say that's, if you're not keeping your ego in check, and you think that you need to be right about everything, you're going to paint yourself in a corner, and it's not going to be good either for you or for anyone else on the you're not going to tolerate people having big egos on your team, and so why should they tolerate yours, is really what it boils down to. It goes both ways. Is people need to be, the only thing I can't tolerate on a team is people that don't have the project and the team first in their mind. If there's people that are trying to just, it's all about them and their ego, well, that's where I start to draw the line very quickly. But it goes both ways. You got to make sure that you're not doing it and falling into that same trap. Yeah, and for me, it's important with any relationship that you have. But why maybe do we put that much emphasis on leadership position in our own industry is that we're not just putting cogs on a on a treadmill. We are, we need motivation and inspiration on the daily basis, and those two things are very difficult to obtain at a big scale. So yeah, you need your team to be on board, to be engaged, to be motivated, inspired, and those are just a few guidelines that will help to get there.
Totally. You need to have their back, and they need to have yours at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, where's the next one coming from? The backlog or the chat?
Let's go with chat.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do we have here?
We have a couple at the bottom.
I don't know. I'll let you pick one this time.
Okay.
Since I throwed you a curveball.
Yeah, thanks for that. That was really great. You tried to incriminate me and everything. That was great. Throw me under the bus. It's okay. I'll remember this, David. I'll pick my moment, and I'll get you.
That's just my favorite thing. Throwing you under a bus on a live stream.
It's perfect. It's perfect. I like it. I can still have the tire tracks running up my back. How about this one? It's kind of related. There's a theme going on tonight. Have you ever had a lead? Have you ever led an entry-level animator with a high level of ego with your team? And if so, how did you handle it? So speaking to a specific, I guess, anecdotal example, like we kind of hinted at, this can be a problem sometimes. Have you ever had anything like that on your team, and what did you do to mitigate it? I have definitely had to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm lagging because I don't remember that I had any one that I had. I've had to lead a lot of different personalities, and some of them were, were very different. But a high level of ego. I'll let you go with your example, because I cannot remember one from my personal experience.
Sounds good. The thing that David's leaving out, and the reason why this doesn't compute in his brain, is because the truth is, the unspoken truth on the production floor is you don't screw with David. So if you have an ego, you hide it deep within the inner sanctum of your soul, and don't let him see it, because he's going to come for you in the night. Just don't screw with David. That's the thing. I'm just kidding. I
want that t-shirt.
Yeah, that would be a perfect shirt to wear as like just a lead walking around. Don't let me see your ego. I will eat you for lunch. Okay, so I think I've had a couple of these kind of scenarios. They can be tricky. There's, there are different types of, like, again, there's so many different types of people, and artists tend to be, ironically, commercial artists should not be. They should always strive to not be egotistical, because it never ends well. It's always going to end in tears. But some people have managed to somehow find a way of working on teams with maybe soft leadership that have let them get away with having a big ego, because maybe because they're really talented, or maybe because I don't know, who knows, but like for whatever reason, sometimes you will, like, we all know these people, and like I'm going to start telling stories and anecdotes, and I think David's going to start jogging his memory. But I think we've seen, we like you when you work at a place, and if you're in the leadership sort of echelon, then very quickly it's the talk, like leads talk to one another, right? As we have to, because we have to share notes, especially between projects. When people shift from a project to another project, that's usually when people start taking notes, right? Because they want to make sure that they're bringing people onto the team that are going to be, fitting in well chemically with the team. And so, you're going to see a correlation between people that are very talented that get away with more than their peers would. And this happens all the time. And it's a natural sort of thing that happens, because at the end of the day, there's been some math, there's been some calculations that the person is bringing more to the team. Maybe it's because they're really efficient, and they can get work done quickly, and the work is of high caliber. And so you tolerate maybe a little bit more of their trespasses, than maybe someone who's a bit weaker, where they would have been like, right away, you would have brought them aside going like, sorry, man, but like, you got to stop. And I honestly, my way of dealing with people like this is I do not allow myself to get passive aggressive and get sucked into that little game. I just have a very honest conversation with them. I just have a not a charged conversation, a friendly conversation. And as a matter of fact, I do it in a way that sort of celebrates who they are. And like, I sort of talk about some of their maybe shortcomings in a positive light. Like, in other words, I try to sort of express to them that I believe that a lot of what they have to offer if directed properly, can actually benefit themselves and the team, because I believe that sometimes all these people need is some proper guidance. Luckily, I've only had probably one experience in my entire career where that didn't go down very well. And that went, but this person I really believe has some legitimate personality disorders. Like, it was like they threw like quite literally a full-on temper tantrum on the production floor. I had to pull them aside because they were making a scene, and I brought them into a room, and I'm like, dude, just talk to me. Like, what's going on? And they thought that every attempt that I made, it was like I was patronizing them, and I'm just like, wow, like, you have to understand right now. And I'm going to cut right to the point here. The way you're talking to me right now, 9 supervisors out of 10 would have had you escorted out of the building. I'm not kidding. Like, there's no way I would sit here and take this. Most people wouldn't. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because I can see you're going through a crisis right now, and I'm not here. I'm not your enemy. To believe it or not, I'm actually not at all. But like, it just seemed like whatever I said was being twisted into some sort of weird delusional fantasy that I was actually out to get them. And trust me, anybody who knows me, I'm not out to get anybody. And so I don't have the time, I don't think, to go out for anybody. And so that was a difficult scenario because I was able to disarm that particular scenario. And to what led to that was me giving feedback that they didn't agree with. And they just didn't agree with it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't agree with it, but I'm trying to tell you why these things are important. Do you register that these things are important? Yes or no? Not really getting a real logical rebuttal. Okay. But like, you see where this leaves me? It leaves me in like, I'm the director here. I need to get it done in a certain way. I have a high level perspective on this. You have to trust me. If you don't trust me, then you shouldn't be on my team. No offense. And like, you know where the door is. Like, no offense. I'm not firing you. Like, but like, if you really can't be compatible with me, then why stick around? You know? And I think that kind of blew their brain, because when I said it like that, they're like, wow, okay, well, maybe he's got kind of a point. It settled them down. I kind of learned to take a grain, like, it was, the project was coming to completion. So I wasn't, if I had another 6 months plus of this person, then it might have went a bit differently. But I just chose to not lock horns with them, to give them shots that was going to be less complicated, to try to get things out of them, and just got to the end zone, and just, but the problem is here I am telling a story. Clearly I remember this. And so if anyone were ever be like, hey, do you know so-and-so? What do you recommend for the team? And I would say, no, I would not. No, I would not. Because unless you're willing to deal with the kind of drama that I dealt with, unless he's on some sort of medication, or unless he's found God or something to be able to bring some peace into his heart, then you're going to have an extra challenge on your hand for sure. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, I would say on my side, I've definitely dealt with big ego on my team. They were not necessarily entry level. They were very senior people, but each time it's, those that acted in a way that made the others, or even myself, feel like, oh my God, their ego are so inflated. It was about themselves. What is the quality of the shot that they received? How well their shot was lighted by the rendering department? How good was it? Whatever it was, it was about themselves. So most of the time I find myself, as you said, let's go and let's talk about this, and very calmly explain the big picture. It's not about them. It's not about me. It's about the project that we're doing, the end product, whether it's an animated feature or a game. We are in service of this product. This is why we are paid to do what we do. Yeah. And the other part is, let's try to have fun doing this. And if we all want to have fun, we need a good environment. And if we want a good environment, we need to all feel that we're in this for the same reasons. And if you give everyone else the signal that you're maybe the only one on the team that is there for yourself and not for the others, you're doing yourself a disservice, because now people are going to slowly get away from you. You're going to end up, not being alone in your corner, but you're definitely not going to have those opportunities that you're thriving to get in the first place, which is feeding the behavior that you have. So just trying to kind of de-escalate the situation, explain calmly what is the big picture and why it's a problem, and at the end of the day, why it's a problem that is going to mainly affect their own experience of this entire
so
production.
true.
And I would say most of the time, it's working for a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months, ideally until barely by the end of the production, but it's going to come back. So I've never experienced like I'm going to talk calmly for half an hour to someone and all of a sudden it's going to change who they are deeply inside and they're not going to be egotistical anymore. That doesn't happen.
No.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but at least I can mitigate a little bit their behavior for a period of time. That's going to at least de-escalate the situation, whether with other department, with production, with their peers for a certain period of time. But at that point, they are on our radar that, okay, we're going to be very careful. Now we know the sign, that we know where it can go. And when the sign are reemerge, you are proactive to go back and talk again about those things before there's another conflict that is created with other people in the team.
It's true. Like, I think that if you keep a consistent attitude and really set an environment and a tone, these people that do stand out will they'll be isolated, because what you're going to notice is that the team members they will start asking to not be on a team, or not they don't want to be working with that person, or they're going to ask to literally move desks, and like it would quite literally, that person can be like quite even physically on their own after a while. So these are the kind of things you have to kind of remind these people about. This, like, look, this is a team, and like we have to be very careful, because you don't want to be that person. Trust me. And so, yeah, I do have an uplifting story that didn't happen on the job, but it does fit the mold, because I didn't write. I forgot that the person was asking, Ender was specifying a junior level person. I think all my anecdotes in my head were not junior; they were like intermediate usually, or even senior. But I can tell you a story about one day because I do a lot of teaching, as you know, and I used to teach at schools, and there was a student at Dawson, I'll never forget this. I saw a bad attitude developing right away, because they were saying things like they like, for instance, I would be like, hey, can everyone put like their work, like I would do these reviews. We would do these public reviews where people would hand in their stuff, and then I would look at each one of them, and they would be in the class, and I would critique everybody. That way, there was like doing a dailies, but like in a classroom scenario. This person always had a trouble with this, because they said, and I quote, well, but if I put my work in the public folder, that means other people will have access to it, and they're going to start to copy me. And I was really taken aback by that, because they weren't kidding. And so I remember I sat down with them one day. I said, because this kid was pretty talented too. Like, I saw potential here, but that all the more reason to have that conversation with them before they got into the job force. I said, look, I need you to understand something. You have a higher technical skill than a lot of people in this classroom. Your work is very good. I want you to instead of feeling like that gives you an edge, and that you want to keep that edge, I would love nothing more than to see you use that to help the people around you. Don't hold it and keep it like it's like a secret weapon, because I can tell you this right now. People that act like this often don't get picked for the job, no matter how good they are, especially if they find out they have a bad attitude. But when they find out that you're really good, and your work might even be better if you didn't spend all your days helping everybody around them, you're hired twice, because they are so excited to get their hands on you, because that's the kind of people they want on their team. They don't want people that are just like these all-stars that are only out for themselves. They want people that are team oriented, that use their own experience and their own skill level to help to force multiply the people around them. Because that, my friends, that's what makes a really good team. You have a whole team full of that, you are going to go places, and that's what people are looking for these days. And when I told them that, the silver lining to this is I watched them literally transform. And by the time they graduated, they were known. He was rigging like characters for people's final films. He was like always offering help, like doing Python scripting. It was ridiculous, because it really clicked. It sunk in what I said to them. It was so profound that they realized, holy, I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense. So it may not be who they were naturally. They might have been, and they probably still are, naturally a little bit anxious about, like, the fear of getting left out, or the fear of losing some sort of edge. But they use that fear and redirected that into an energy that was positive, and he ended up getting a really, really good job, because that attitude really, like, people were singing his praises by the end of the school year, because they're just like, they couldn't say enough good things about this person because of all the help that he had offered. And so you can imagine how that looks when you go to an interview, and like the person right before your interview was one of your peers, and they spent half their interview talking about how awesome you were. Then you win, right? That's the mentality. And so that would be, I guess that would be my same approach for a junior, because a junior is not much further away than an actual student. They're just one job offer away from being a student, right? So
yeah, that's another misconception. There's something that it's a zero-sum game. If I do well, or if it means that if others do well, it means that it's kind of detrimental on my on the image that others will have on me, and the other way around. As as you said, force multiplying is usually what happens if you share with others.
Always.
So. And you don't know how, but you just have to trust that karma. What goes around comes around every time. It never fails.
What's funny, and I think the reason why David's laughing is because we have this conversation a lot, and it's this idea of like force multiplying is really living at the very beating heart of what Agora is. Well, that's literally what we're doing. We're trying to put people together that all have that same desire to give back and to let that force multiplication happen, because we believe that helping all the people around us helps us too. It's like it is a community. And so this idea that like the spirit of what Agora.Community comes from many reflections that David and I had together on this topic. And it's sort of, it repeats everywhere. And the number of times that David and I were just like, you know what, screw it, let's just do it and let's see what happens. And it may not be immediately, like we've been proven enough times for sure that when you go with that flow and that rationale, it's not always going to come back right away cosmically, but it will sometimes. And when it does come back, it sometimes comes back really big. And so you put yourself out there, because you're gonna you can't win the game by not rolling the dice. You know what I mean? You keep them in your pocket. You keep those dice, keep a tight grip on them. They're just a couple of cubes in your pocket, but you put them out there and you help the people around you with those. You never know what could happen.
Yep. Brent, it's been an hour already. Can you imagine?
It's ridiculous.
Crazy. We'll have to extend and maybe have those 2 hours Q&A, because we're barely going through 4 or 5 questions.
I know. Petter goes, bro, I want to see these talks extended to 3 hours.
There we go.
If only there was enough time in the day. Okay, so are we going to close up shop, or we're going to do one more? You got something to do? You probably do.
I do, but let's go one more. Let's take 5 minutes.
This was for you, Petter. Don't say that we never did anything for you, buddy. Okay, so, geez, which one? I think we should go to the backlog, only because I feel like we've neglected it. We've only done 2 questions in there, I think.
All right, last one for the backlog.
Okay.
All right, that's an interesting one. Okay. Do you ever feel unmotivated when working? If yes, how do you keep motivated and get work done? That's an interesting one.
David doesn't get unmotivated because he's actually a cyborg. True story. And so he's gonna have a hard time relating to this question. It's the same reason, incidentally, why people fear him because they know he's a cyborg. So I don't know. I'm gonna be very curious to listen to your answer, David.
I don't know. The first thing I have in mind, I used to start my day pretty slow. I don't want to say I was by default demotivated by the beginning of the day, but it used to take me some time, and maybe by 10, 11, I would start to get my groove. So I kind of completely changed my schedule in the past year, waking up super early, coffee, meditation, training, shower, journaling a little bit, helping with the kids with their lunch. And when I get to 7:30, 8 a.m., I have, endorphin, dopamine, caffeine, often my second espresso, and I'm just unstoppable, at least for 3 hours. So I would say get your chemicals right.
That's funny.
Sometimes just a little run, or some inspirational video, or there's everyone has their own hack that they can find to get to this place where they feel or at least they have the natural chemicals to be motivated. So I would say that's kind of my morning hack routine to get motivated. Other than that, did I often get motivated? Yeah, at least on a daily basis, there's some moment I'm like, I so don't want to be doing this, but that's. And I don't want to go too deep with this one, but that's definitely one of the things that I felt that why meditation was very beneficial for me, which is basically almost like detaching yourself and observing yourself. So when I feel super unmotivated, I try to detach from it and see myself who has to do this task. And then it kind of removed this emotional element of really not wanting to do this and just get through it. It'll be way brighter on the other side when you have spent the 20 minutes to do this thing. So it's almost like I put an emotional blanket for the period of time that I have to get through this thing. I don't want to be doing it. But obviously, if you're spending too many days or weeks in a row unmotivated, ask yourself if you're really in the right place and doing the right thing. Because it can be like little moments here and there. It's normal, even on a daily basis. There are some of those moments. But if it's just recurrent and nonstop, take a bigger step back. And are you in the right studio, on the right project, with the right team, in the right profession, whatever that is? Take that step back and ask yourself, do I see myself still doing that a couple of years? And if the answer is no, what is your plan to do something about it? Because it's not going to solve itself.
That's bombshell advice right there. I think the you need to always be willing to ask that question, because there's a big difference between, temporary setbacks of motivation, which is going to happen all the time, because there's no job out there that there's not these mundane tasks or, tasks that stress you out or whatever. I think that the thing you need to do is you need to learn more about yourself. I think David's mechanism to deal with this is the meditation, which allows him to gain better perspective on the true situation, removing the emotional part out and being like, oh, okay, well, that's just a dude who loves doing this stuff, but this one thing here he kind of hates doing, but it's it's a means to an end, and once he's done, he's going to get to the juicy stuff that he really likes. So yeah, okay, let me go back in and repossess that person and then make sure that I get through it, because I can now see from up here, so that's an interesting way to do it, I think. But I think at the end of the day, it's knowing yourself. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference. Like, do can you recognize that the feeling you're having right now is a dread in general of the place you're at? Are you feeling like this more often than you're feeling positive? Then yeah, maybe it's time to consider maybe a different place, a different career even. Like, I see people that ignore that little voice in their head for like tens of years, and they're miserable for like a greater part of their life, until then they realize, maybe even after a nervous breakdown, that holy crap, why was I doing this job for so long? I hated that job. It's like, it's just not worth it. Life is way too short to sit there doing something that you don't like doing. Like, honest to God, especially in this business where it should be fun. And if it's not, then you're doing it wrong. So the other thing I would say is, for those momentary ones, to not get freaked out by them, because it's normal. Like, and you just have a bad day. Maybe you're just extra tired that day. And just like, you have a hard time wrapping your head around like planning. I cannot stomach planning if I've had no sleep. It's just like I have too much of a squirrel brain, and I just can't stay focused long enough to be able to do it. So what I say to those kind of situations is, there's always a bunch of tasks that are really like it's the same primal part of your brain that likes playing those sort of clicker games, like on an iPhone, where it's just like, it's a lot of just tapping buttons, it's like really brainless. Like, I'd say like the what do you call it? What's this thing called again?
Machine?
Yeah, it's like a slot machine. Exactly. Same thing. It's just the mechanism just going brrr and waiting, brrr and waiting. It's like, this is mindless, but somehow it's fun. And we do this because it's just, so I like to try to recognize quickly on a job at hand what those things are. And whenever I'm feeling unmotivated, just do those things, because you could be productive. And it can really reset you, because it can almost give you that like little vacation from the job, but yet that vacation still got all this like these menial jobs done, so that when you do feel invigorated and energized, you get to like go at it with like, you hit those tougher jobs, the ones you kind of dread, with a little bit more drive, to get through them. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I agree. For those little lapses of unmotivation, find an act that's going to work for you, whatever that is. And if it's deeper than that, take a step back and properly. Yep. And even when I had people that were super unmotivated on my team, that used to be the conversation that I had with them, and I would get there, and often they would think of, okay, I'm going to be explained why it's important for the studio or why he wants me to do that and all that. And it was to the contrary. I was like, dude, if you really don't like this, why are you even here? Do you even like animation? Do you like being 40 hours in front of a computer? Because it's not normal for everyone. Do you like this pressure that we have here? If you don't, I can help to maybe it's to do something else within the team. Maybe it's to go in a different team. Maybe it's to be on another project. Maybe you should try a different industry for a while if you've been in, let's say, video game for too long and you want to try VFX or whatnot. So, and sometimes forcing them to take the step back and just contemplate the fact that they could not necessarily lose it, but it's sometimes it just gives the perspective of, oh, you know what, it's not that bad actually. It's just this and this that is annoying. Okay, well, let's deal with that, and
exactly,
and that's it. So just force that perspective sometime on some people, because many times, no matter how well paid we are, no matter what is the project, what is there are some people that will just be never satisfied, and it's and at that point you really have to work on yourself to be able to find this enjoyment or motivation of whatever you have to do for 40 hours, because otherwise it's not going to be fun, not going to be worth it.
It's not gonna be fun for you, and it's definitely not gonna be fun for the people around you, because that kind of stuff bleeds out. It's like no one likes to work alongside some freaking jaded grumpy pants. Like, that's just not fun. So you're doing yourself a disservice, you're doing your team a disservice, and it just further evidence that leadership will always be partly like life coaching. It is, which is ironic, because we probably need our own life coaches. But I think that I don't know about you, but I've always been better at giving advice to other people than following my own advice. I think that's a natural human thing. I think it's because it's like what you're trying to get with meditation, right? It's like you're detaching a little bit. It's a lot easier to see things for what they are when you don't have the emotional sort of confusion and noise that's clouding your judgment on or seeing what's really in front of you, where you could see, like, sometimes you feel like your coworker better than they know themselves. It's because maybe that's true in many ways. So
you definitely have some observation that are harder to have when they're coming from the inside. So.
And being flexible and literally quite literally offering like maybe they're like, that this is not rigid. Like, we could literally have you do something else. Like, I've seen people leave departments and go totally like from animation into effects sort of work in games, or like from modeling to animation, just because they just realized, actually, you know what, I'm always jealous of these people over here doing that looks way more fun. And so they make the transition after like learning the ropes and maybe getting kind of tutored by somebody. Like, hopefully you work at a company where they're willing to do that and invest in you like that. Not all companies will, but if you happen to be at one, then you should take them up on that offer. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would always encourage someone that is looking forward to maybe test new things. For sure, you mix things up. Staying at the same studio in the same industry, doing the same thing over and over on similar project, dude. You have one life. Try other stuff. Don't rewatch the same movie 5 times. There's plenty of good movies.
Unless it's Ghostbusters, the original. You can keep watching that one. It's really good.
Okay, I'll give you one.
That's my go-to, yeah. All right, well, that was our extra bonus round. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Hopefully these still are interesting for you. I guess they are, because you keep coming back for more, which is great. I think that we're probably getting to the point where we have enough questions soon to maybe even put a special themed Q&A together. David and I are going to have to put our brains together and figure out who that pro sort of like specialist is that we're going to bring in to answer the call. But we'll try to surprise everybody and entertain everybody at the same time with somebody interesting, and we'll see when that happens.
Yeah, we should do some sprint question answering as well. Like, we have a little time clock. We literally have 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Every question, so we'll go through 30 instead
Let's do it next time. We'll totally do like the speed round and see what happens. I like that. It's good.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, well, David, have a good evening. This is getting close to David's bedtime because you heard that he's like full of like nitroglycerin in the morning, but that comes at a cost, which is he fades out real hard after 10 o'clock. So we're just going to let him go Betty bye. Thank you, David. Enjoy your evening. See you on the next one.
Bye, chat. Bye, Brent.
Bye. Later, man. Okay, well, that was another fun round of it's a round of find the I know where it is. I'm trying to turn off this text. Another fun round of Q&A. I do like David's suggestion. I think we should totally do that. Just have a speed Q&A round to see how many we can actually get through. It's just like right to the point, right away. Can you answer this question? It's like you win if you could say it with the fewest words. Let's see if we can do that. I will obviously lose that because I'm definitely not a man of few words. So I'll have a hard time competing against David. So thanks for coming out. As always, you can send your questions through social. I believe Instagram is usually the best place to do it. So if you don't have an Instagram account, then you might have a hard time doing that. I think we can streamline this a little bit better, and we will eventually find a really, really convenient way for everybody to be able to like get their questions in. So stay tuned for that. But until then, you can always show up. What Scott, who's amazing, and I think he's actually kicking around still in chat. He's actually been doing an amazing service and collecting all unanswered questions from these streams and putting them in the backlog. So have no fear, Scott's got your back if your question didn't get answered. So keep them coming, and we'll keep doing our best to answer them. Have a good evening. Stay animated. See you guys around. Cheers. Wait a minute. Take two. I forgot to say something. Tomorrow, don't forget to tune in tomorrow at 3 p.m. Jalil Sadil. I can never say his name properly. Jalil Sadul. I think I'm saying it right. He is going to be on, and I'll just make sure I think it's at 3 o'clock. Let me just double check here. Pretty sure. It's funny because I was just going back and forth with Scott on this, and he was dealing with time zones, and now I think he's got me all spun around. Yeah, okay, definitely Jalil Sadul, 3 o'clock. He's the co-founder and the CEO of Steamroller Studio. If you don't know what that is, you should definitely check it out before the actual stream. But he was the person that we kept riffing on when we had a chat with Manny, because Manny knows him, David knows him, and he's got a very interesting story. The arc to his story and how Steamroller came about is definitely worth tuning in to listen to, because it took a lot of very interesting turns. Like, for instance, not to spoil the story, but he did not set out to make what Steamroller is. It kind of evolved from a completely different motivation, which is, I find, very fascinating, especially considering how successful and how large that particular organization has grown to become. So please do show up 3 o'clock tomorrow Eastern Standard in the afternoon, and we'll have that chat with him, David and I. Okay, so hopefully I'll see you somewhere there. So sorry, hopefully, man, I just can't talk tonight. Maybe I need to go to bed too. Hopefully I'll see some of you at that stream tomorrow. And if not, I'll see you at the next one. Have a good one. Cheers.
Hey.